You're listening to the Abolitionist Round Table, patriotic Black American conservatism, with your hosts, Del, Phil, and Janice, leading the charge and advancing the 4%. Join in the conversation at 734-822-1600.
And we are back, and so we are going to get right back to Pastor Rick. Pastor Rick, what the Pope had to say about this economic situation here.
Right. Well, the first thing we covered, first of all, is we looked at his statements on immigration.
Yeah.
And we looked at the intent there, and it really did make anyone who was against illegal immigration look like villains, and we're not. But as we discussed, that was part of a social program that he has in line for. The next thing he spent a lot of time speaking about in front of Congress was global warming. Now, to start with, we've got to take a look at the Catholic position on global warming. This goes back quite a ways. It goes back to Galileo. With Galileo, all of a sudden, the Catholic Church is sitting there saying the world is flat, the world is flat, the world is flat. Galileo comes along and says, no, it isn't. And he's teaching that in universities. Next thing you know, they're persecuting Galileo for his stand on the round world. And, of course, the Catholic Church got a great big black eye over their stance against Galileo. As time went on, the world was found to be round, obviously. So now anytime a new scientific theory comes up, instead of sitting there researching it and finding out if it's actual and then actually taking the time to find out if it is scientific, instead of, not necessarily discarding it, but not necessarily grabbing a hold of it right away. What they are doing now is when something new comes on it, they jump on that bandwagon right away so they don't look like they did with Galileo. They don't get another black eye. So now we have this concept of man-made global warming, and the Catholic Church is saying, well, we don't want to look stupid, so we're going to grab a hold of it, and we're going to push this whole concept of man-made global warming. We have to be good stewards, and I will agree, we have to be good stewards of the earth God gave us. But that does not mean that man-made global warming is real.
Absolutely.
But here's the thing. It goes beyond just not looking silly with science. When you look at what we'll call the Green Initiative, this is, as we were talking before the break, this is just a redistribution of wealth to take the money out of the power of the United States and spread it out. What the movement of the global warming is doing is actually weakening economically the United States of America. It is taking the economic force out of here, the money. A lot of people are worried about the illegal immigrants coming in. We have to also look at what's going out of this country. And what's going out of this country is the economic wealth and the stance of what's supposed to be a very peaceful, loving nation, and it's weakening us to where we cannot help with that. And it's all part of that same social agenda. Let's take away from the nasty rich Americans and redistribute their wealth, and they're doing it through this Green Initiative.
Okay, let me ask you, because we got a caller, and he wants to talk about the Supreme Court, but let me ask you, don't you believe that the Supreme Court takes the position on global warming in this cap and trade? Didn't they make a ruling that was a thing that we should be concerned with, the Supreme Court?
I'll be honest with you. Ask me a question I'm not that much up on, so I'm not going to make a big response.
Okay.
All I'll say about the Supreme Court is they have given a power grab by stating we no longer have to. We make decisions based on the intent of the law, since we can interpret the law, and they gave themselves this problem or this power to interpret the law any way they see fit, which allows them to legislate from the bench. So I'm not too keen on the Supreme Court right now.
The reason that we are able to go on with this was a ruling a couple of years ago about this that went through the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court gave it. And they've always backed big government programs through the Supreme Court. But I want to get Bruce on the air and find out. Good morning, Bruce.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Good morning, Pastor. Good conversation. Good to hear your voice. I find it astounding that we have come to the point where instead of going through the legislative process, we now have to rely on a minimum of 5 people, unelected people wearing black robes, sitting on a bench in Washington, D.C., to do the right thing. I simply do not recall when a law was passed by Congress that simply stated the obvious, that marriage is between a man and a woman. Nor do I recall a law passed back in 1973 that stated that abortion is the law of the land. We have to rely on these Supreme Court interpretations that now carry the force of law. Guys, this is completely 180 degrees out of phase, topsy-turvy, upside down, whatever you want to call it.
And well, that's why I said that we need to address the reining in that Supreme Court, and there's two ways of doing it. One is to impose term limits, and the other one, and more drastic, is to this judicial review. Is we need to put that in under some strict. The Congress needs to write some specific laws where they can impose judicial rule, and then the president has to sign that and join in so we can rein in that Supreme Court.
Yeah. Well, Phil, isn't there another way? I know we are able to impeach federal judges at lower levels. Alcee Hastings immediately comes to mind.
Yeah.
Are we not able to impeach Supreme Court justices?
Well,
these people should not be there for lifetime tenure. That's one thing.
I was just going to comment on that when he says we need to term limits. Yeah. The Supreme Court, by the way, is term limited to one term, but it's a lifetime term.
Term, exactly.
What we need to do is cut that back. I also, just on the same point Bruce was making about them redefining the law, they've gone beyond that. They've gone beyond overturning what Congress has done, overturning what the laws of the land did. Yeah. Understand what the Supreme Court just did with the same-sex marriage is they redefined language itself.
Yes, exactly.
They took a millennium old definition, marriage. That has had meaning for thousands of years. That word had a definition. They decided upon themselves to redefine something that had a common meaning for thousands of years. So the Supreme Court knows no boundaries.
No.
Not only can
that's why I say they're out of control.
The redefinition of language.
Yeah.
Good is evil, up is down, right is left. We've always been at war with East Asia, Winston. That's that type of thing.
Yeah.
Imagine a Supreme Court where you could take and give them the Webster's Dictionary and have them go through and redefine and change the meaning of every word in it. That is what they have taken the role on as the Supreme Court, is be able to rewrite the whole language and not just make it common, but make it legal. We now say this word means this.
And make it the law of the land.
Right.
And that is it. I mean, you don't have anywhere else to go. Like Huckabee, and I'm going to play a cut from Huckabee. He said it's the Supreme Court, not the Supreme ruler, Supreme being.
Yeah.
So, Bruce, thanks a lot for getting up with us this morning. I want to play
and one other thing. I think the seventh commandment states that thou shalt not steal.
Yep.
Isn't that what we're doing with redistribution of wealth?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So where's the Pope on that?
Yeah. Well, he's a four square.
Well, you see, what they did is they put a theological term on stealing to make it okay. They called it social gospel.
Social justice,
Well, actually, the church called it.
All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot. God bless, Pastor. Great. Keep up the great work, and you guys do the same.
All right. Thanks a lot, Bruce.
Okay. Love you guys. Bye-bye.
Before you play that bite, I just want to cover. Okay, we covered the immigration. We covered global warming as being a power grab, a steal from the United States to redistribute the rest of the world. One thing he also talked about in Congress, sort of, is the sanctity of life. Not to the extent of abortion, but to that of just capital punishment.
Yeah.
What he did not speak about.
Yes.
Yeah, he talked about capital punishment. And I'll tell you, if you want to sit down someday and have a discussion.
Did he go to the prisons?
Yes.
Did he go to visit the prison or something like that?
Yeah, he went and visited Congress and visited the jails.
Yeah, visited the jails.
And he told the criminals everything they wanted to hear. But I don't know what he told the people in the prison.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. But wow.
But the criminals in Washington, he talked to them also.
He visited both of the criminals.
Right, yeah. But he talked about capital punishment. I could sit there if you ever wanted to have a debate, have a biblical debate on, or theological debate on capital punishment. I would sit there and say, I take a different view of him. We'll put it there. Yeah. But where he didn't talk about the sanctity of life, where everyone expected him to when talking to Congress, with the absolute perfect opportunity with everything going on with the videos and everything else, is he could have got up there and did a condemnation of abortion.
Yep.
Something this, I mean, fine, he did it. He did it up in at the UN, but he did not do it in Congress, where you have a number of people in Congress and in our government that take the pro-abortion stance. He had an opportunity to affect change there. He did not. We have Vice President Boehner, who says, I'm a Catholic, I'm against abortion, I know it's totally morally wrong, but I can't force my beliefs upon others.
Yeah.
This was a chance for the Pope to get up and speak on that.
Yeah.
For example, if I was the Pope, here's what I would have said to Boehner, or not to Boehner, I'm sorry, excuse me, Vice President Biden. Who's the one that says, I'm a Catholic, I'm against it, I can't impose.
Yeah.
I'm not going to impose. That was Vice President Biden. I want to make sure to get that clear. I would have said, are you opposed to hurting animals? He'd say, of course. And according to your religion, you're opposed to hurting animals. Of course. So am I. All right? And so we have laws that are imposed on us saying you cannot hurt animals, right? The same as you could say the same thing about spousal abuse, any other law that's on the book that protects another person. We can say, yeah, it protects them because it's morally wrong, so we're going to impose our views on you and pass this law that stops you from doing it. So if Biden really says, no, it's morally wrong, as he says it is, and that we shouldn't take, we shouldn't do abortion, it's totally wrong, well, then he has that right as a legislator, in this case, Vice President, which is the head of the Senate when it comes to a vote. Did I get that wrong? Probably did. But he splits the one vote. If there's a tie, he comes up and makes a vote.
Yeah.
To sit there and say, I can't impose this one on people.
Yeah.
Well, that makes every law he ever voted for when he was in the Senate wrong, because he just imposed his view on there. This was an opportunity for the Pope to get up there and say, no, it is morally wrong, and your idea that you're imposing it is wrong. The fact is we feel murder is wrong, right?
Yes.